All right. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, or good evening. Welcome to my studio and another session of art, tea and art. Today I have my tea here, and for today's session, we're going to be working with pastels. And we're going to do this very simple arrangement. I've gone and selected a few pastels that I think I'll be using. We have a bunch of greens in here, some grays. I'm going to try to go for some neutral grays. And some very light colors and white to go for the highlights. If you are following with me or painting after the session goes live on my channel, I would recommend you use whatever pastels you have available. The kinds of pastels you're going to be using, whether they're going to be hard, medium hard, or soft, will have to, in essence, depend on your support. If you're using a sketch paper, like I am right here in my sketchbook, I would say to go with a bit of harder pastels if you have the choice. If not, use whatever it is that you're using. You have to keep in mind that excuse me, that the paper is not going to hold a lot of layers. Right, and that's going to be very important to understand, to keep in mind. Right, so I have here a mixture of hard pastels. These are new pastels from Prismacolor. I have some Jack Richardson pastels, which are more of the medium hard, and I have Sennelier pastels that are very, very soft. The very, very soft pastels are really good for layering on top. The last little bit that you add, the last layer, I would not recommend them for the base layers because they muck up the tooth of the paper. They're too soft. Okay. So I don't know if I'm going to use all of these pastels. I don't know necessarily that I'm going to use all the colors either. But it's a good start. And I can always go back to my stash and select something else. Another thing that you're going to need is, I swear I had it somewhere in here. Okay, we're just going to go with, we are going to want a pencil of some kind. You can use graphite, you can use charcoal. I think I'm going to use charcoal here. Something harder hard. Okay. Very, very lightly. Charcoal is very dark. The reason I don't want to use graphite right now is because graphite tends to have a sheen to it, and depending on where I'm using it, for example, for the if I were to use it here for the glass, right? I'm not gonna cover it with a bunch of pastel on top, so it's going to be poking through, and I don't want that. Whereas the charcoal is going to be rubbed off a bit more, and I'm using a hard charcoal pencil instead of soft because I don't want a whole bunch of pigment to go on the paper. I want something nice and soft, or very little pigment. The other thing you can do is, I was just thinking about it now. If you want to go with graphite, you can use a H pencil. H pencils are very hard, and they're not going to leave a lot of marks. And if you go very softly, that's going to be fine as well. Actually, I might do that. Should I? I might just do that. Because I'm thinking this charcoal is going to be very dark for my glass here. It's going to be too dark. And I don't want to have too much of a... on the other hand, we can also have a bit of a background. Okay, let's go with, well, green and white I really like. No, let's go with the H pencil. Okay. I was thinking that if I were to do a background, it's going to mask it's going to mask the charcoal if I have any left on this portion of the painting, on the drawing. Okay. All right, so what I will do now is I would sketch. I would sketch my picture here. Now, when we're painting on anything other than canvas, I like to have a border around my page to give me an indication of what my actual painting surface, what's the size of it. Otherwise, there is a tendency to go all the way to the edges of the paper, like this. Okay? That's not necessarily bad, but it does make, if you're, for example, if you are on a sketchbook, I'm just sketching this out very roughly. If you are in a sketchbook, it's going to be very hard to turn the pages because you're constantly going to be touching the edge of your painting, right? So this gives you an edge to pick up the paper to turn it. Now, when you do this, you can use masking tape. When I use loose sheets of paper, I would use a masking tape on, I would put the paper on a foam board, and I would use masking tape to give me that border. Okay, for this here, I'm just using my pencil, just very, very roughly. Okay, it doesn't have to be exact. I don't mind it. It's just practice. And you know what? I think I'm going to put on a bit of a candle here. I like to have candles and tea when I paint. It sets the mood. Okay. So let's sketch this out. Actually, for you guys to be able to see it, I think I might have to go with the charcoal after all. Because otherwise you're not going... Oh, there's a medium. Hard. Okay. So how do I set this thing on my paper here? size of it, and I'm just going to go with exactly the way that it is in the picture. So if I want my top flower to be around here, the other flower would be right here. Something like that. I'm pretty sure that I'm a little bit bigger than I should be, but can you guys actually see anything? Let's go harder. Sketching this out very roughly. Okay, I'm not all that concerned with accuracy. I just want an idea. The way that I paint is more loose. That's just how I like to paint. That's the look that I like for my paintings. So then I don't need to have things super accurate. The brain is going to complete the picture. But I do want to have things make sense. Okay. So perspective is going to need to make sense. I definitely have to move the flowers a bit higher up. So for example, over here, we know that water is going to shift the way that we see things. It diffracts the light. So this one, oops, no, okay. This one stem here, it comes down this way, but then it goes out at an angle when it goes into the water. I'm talking about this guy right here. Okay. So it looks weird, but that's nature. That's the natural laws of physics. And we want to maintain those. This is actually going to be this guy right here. Okay. I just shifted my flowers a tiny bit up. And I still want that top one to be bigger. That's what I like about this composition. All right. So when you sketch this out, I would suggest you go very light. might have to do some finicking around with it and adding some stuff just to get rid of some of these lines later on. We'll see, because things are I don't want to have, this is glass and I don't want to have such a hard edge, but I do want for you to see what I'm doing, which means that I have to go darker than I usually would. So I'll adjust later on. But when you are sketching this out, if you want to keep the white of the paper as your background, I suggest you go very, very light. Okay. All right. Now, what are we going to do first? With pastels, you always go for the darks first. You set the tone. That sets the tone for the whole painting. Okay? Because your contrast is going to be provided by your darkest dark against the lightest light. That's going to be your contrast by those values. So my darkest color and tone and value, would be this one. But these two are very similar in value. I'm gonna do something else. I'm gonna bring in another pastel. 2 seconds. Okay, and as I said before, I also have to be very mindful of how much my paper can take. So here I have a very dark blue, almost like not a navy blue, indigo type of blue, very, very dark. And I'm gonna use that for my darkest dark. Okay. Because this right here is not the darkest that I can go. I'm not gonna use black. I tend not to use straight black in my paintings. I like to use color. However, this is not the darkest I can go, and I have two competing values here for these two colors. So that's not going to provide as much depth. So that's why the super dark blue. All right, so let's go back to my picture. So the darkest dark is going to be the center of this flower right here. And these stems. Not all the stem, not entire stem. There's going to be some light in here. Or we're going to have this edge of really dark. I'm using the edge of the pastel. It's got the way that I broke it, it has this square edge to it, and that's what I'm using to get those really crisp lines. Now this photograph does the job, most of the job for us in setting the direction of light. It's coming from the top left this way, which means that all my shadows are going to be on the right. So for this flower right here, for example, the lightest portion of the flower is going to be on this edge, and the underneath is going to be in dark on the right, in the shadow. Okay, now is when I go with my green over this dark portion right here, and it creates, I got some stuff, it creates more depth, and you can already see it. The difference between the green straight on the white paper versus the green on top of this blue. And I'm going very, very light. This is a Sennelier pastel. I think this is the Sennelier. I have lost my voice recently and I'm just getting better. It's still it's very sensitive when I talk, so sorry for all the coughing. I'm not sick right now, I'm just learning to use my voice again. So this is very, because this is very, very soft, I'm trying to use it very, very lightly, because I'm going to come up against the limitation of my paper very soon here. This is another color, very similar value, but it's just a different color. And it adds a bit more interest. I'm not going to put too much of it though in here, again because of how many layers I can get into this paper here. Very, very. This is a Sennelier as well. It's very soft. So I'm going very, very lightly. Very light touch is going to determine the pressure you put on the pastel is going to determine how much pigment gets put down on paper. Even my white flower is not going to be totally white. That's why I'm putting some of these greens in there. And some more on here as well. Okay, I think it's time to move on with something a lot softer or lighter. And we're moving into the last layers for these two green flowers. And you can tell that I'm picking up the colors underneath. Okay, wipe that off. This is again a Sennelier. Most of them are actually Senneliers, actually. The softer bits. leave it at that for a little bit. I'm gonna use this super light green here a little bit on this flower. With a little bit of yellow here and there. Okay, and now I would like to use a little bit more yellow green on tops of these. Can't really see the difference. One, because the paper isn't taking anymore, and two, because the values are very similar, actually probably exactly the same. So there isn't enough contrast for this other color to show up. But it is going to tint the green that I already have on here a little bit more yellow, so I'm going to use it. Okay, just gonna leave it the way it is, and let's work with the stems a bit more. I'm gonna use this color a little bit. It's a very soft pastel. Trying to be very careful where I put it and how much I put down. Not much of it is going down. Let's go with a lighter color. I'm gonna go with something warm. I want to echo the warmth in these two flowers over here, just because this is the light that's shining through. So I'm using this yellow-green, kind of sparingly, but there, to add a little bit of interest. Okay, that was supposed to be a leaf. Oh well. Okay, I think I'm pretty much done with those stems. I might want to do a smidge like that. Okay. Now, glass is very interesting because glass, you see how much pastel I have on my hands. Pastels get messy. All right. Maybe we want some more music. So I have to just have to find it again. This one. The internet is doing something weird. Okay. So already I really like the way that this is looking. And we have to do something with this glass. Now glass, as I said, is really rather interesting. because it's clear, but it has, where it's thicker, it's going to have a bit of a color. Where it reflects, is going to have color. So it's really quite intricate. And to be honest, I kind of shy away from painting clear glass because I'm not always in the mood for it, you know. But it is a very interesting subject to paint, that's for sure. Okay, so over here we have a really dark piece. I can't tell if it's where it's resting against the glass right here. Okay, then the water. If you see the reference photo here, the top of this water meniscus here, it's colored. So, and it's colored, it's got the green and the grays and that blue, because it's reflecting what's above it, right? So my flower's above. So we have this dark edge here. We have this dark edge that cuts the flower stems. And we've got something going on at the back there. Okay, after which we're going to have, let's go with this green a little bit. It's going to be colored. Going to have light reflected on it as well. But I also have the gray of the glass itself. So I've got here a blue gray. Okay. I need to go a little bit darker. I've got a darker gray happening. Just with the edge. Okay. I'm going to go back to my green. It's a lot of layering back and forth to create that depth. And a little bit of guessing. You know, in the sense of using the same colors that you have in the flowers, because those are going to be the ones that are reflected. Speaking of which, I'm going to have this light color from here down in there. And I'm not going to go with white. I might just go with this super light greenish color to add a little bit of those highlights. And that's as much as we're going to put down on here. So, you know, have some fun. Again, I'm not copying exactly. I'm kind of just, whereas a shape of color here, shape of color there type of thing. Okay. This is much too light. I'm going to try to, there I go. A bit more like that. Now, the rest of this, because it is tinted a little bit, I'm going to put down some of this blue-gray. It's a very strong color. Or rather, it's a very pigmented pastel, so a lot of that pigment is coming through. What I would suggest for painting glass is to kind of go with shapes that you see reflected in the glass. Don't think of it as glass. Okay, I'm making a bit of a mess, but since I started, I might as well continue on. There you go. Okay. And that can be a rule. Once you start making a mess, just go with it. Because see, it can turn into something quite nice. I still have that edge. So I might have to go a little bit darker again because I have too much of that edge happening on the glass here from when I sketched it. If you don't have that edge, then don't worry about it. Don't put any more color on it, maybe. Okay. I actually like this a lot better than clear that I had before. Okay, so what else do we have? Okay, amplify this edge a little bit there, and this guy right here, and I think we should be good as is. All right, now one other thing, I'm gonna go back with my blue and more of a low light, if you want to call it that. Just for contrast. Because again, the water is going to reflect, the glass is going to reflect. You've got lots of reflections happening. So, have some fun with them. We're going to come in with some white later on. What else am I missing? I'm missing this little guy right here. Okay, I'm very happy with that. I have to clean my hands. So now we're, excuse me, we are at the stage, get this thing out. Why doesn't it want to come out? There you go. Baby wipes are going to be your friend. When you're painting, baby wipes are your friends. Your best friends. Cannot live without baby wipes. When you're handling the lighter pastels, like the whites and the light neutrals and so on, try to have clean hands. As you saw, there's a lot of dust that gets on your hands, and that's going to go on the pastel. It's going to muck it all up. Then you have to clean it. Okay, and yeah. Not that there's anything wrong with cleaning it. I'd rather just paint as opposed to use all my time in cleaning. So this is a pure white. It is a sennelier. It's very, very soft. It's the only thing that's going to go on top of these flowers now because I have too many layers already on here. Okay. So it's also going to be the highlights on this vase. But it's not going to be the highlight on these ones because that's going to be too harsh of a contrast. I'm going to use this very light green instead. So you can probably just barely see it. It's picking up a lot of color, so I know that it's the paper is very, very full. So I'm going to be very careful with this. There's no point in trying to force pastel to go on. It's not going to go on. Oops, sorry, I'm bumping into things. Okay, don't do this. Okay, my phone doesn't stay on for very long. Okay, so I'm gonna put some over here as well, lightly, or rather at this point I'm pushing quite a bit, but it's not doing much, just picking up the stuff underneath. Okay, it's going to do that, and now I'm going in with my white over here. The white's not gonna do much either. Not enough contrast in here, I don't think. And it's picking up a lot of that pastel underneath, so I know, again, I'm fighting the tooth of the paper. Now, what you could do is you can also be adding a bit more darker color, so that's going to be a bit more contrast. I might just do that. Also, another way of going about limitation of the paper is to spray it with a fixative and then go back in with the pastel. I'm not going to do that right now because I kind of just like the way that it looks. I don't want to add anything extra. Okay, so now I'm going to go into the area at the bottom here, and I am pushing quite a bit actually to try to get a little bit of that highlight showing. Not much wants to show up though, which is fair. Because I've got too much on there. Oops, 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 don't do that. Okay, I'm gonna add stuff that doesn't exist on my reference photo, just because I want to amplify a little bit of this. Okay, this is as much as I can put down actually, and it isn't tons. Let's see. Yeah, you can't even see it much. Okay. That is as much as I can get on there. And so let's go back in with a darker, not too dark, maybe this kind of dark. Get the tips in there. Ooh, that's really pretty. Getting some sharp edges. Just using the edge of the pastel, and I'm pressing down. This color is going to show up where there's lots of whites, because again, the contrast. Over here, where it's not showing up so much, I'm going to go in with a darker green to create that contrast. I like that. Darker green would be this dude. Okay, because my white flower is overlapping the other one, so I want to make sure that I create a sense of that. Got a little bit of that happening there. A bit of light on top of it. So how am I feeling with everything else in here? Feeling quite good, actually. It's too light. Okay. Yep. I've got a little bit of two. There we go. That looks better. All right. And this is our painting today. Okay. Oops, I can't show you the bottom of it. Oh, no. Let's do this instead. All right. I hope you have enjoyed this. Do let me know in the comments below if there's anything that you would like to see me paint, that you'd like to learn to paint. Let me know. And thank you so much for joining me. I actually really love this piece. Really love this piece. Okay, well, again, thank you so much, and have yourselves a good day, and I'll see you next month, in about a month, for my session number 3 for tea and art. All right, thank you so much. Bye for now.